Lord, shine your light upon these words now as we have read. And shine them on our hearts and our minds and our body. So that we will have the ability to comprehend and the willingness to commit and the desire, Lord, to serve. We ask, O God, all these in the name of Christ, who is preparing into the destinies and the mission that you have given him. We give you thanks for this season of Lent, and pray, O God, that you will walk along us as a faithful friend, as a loving parent, and above all, as our Savior. And this we pray in your name. Amen. What kind of people come to Ash Wednesday service? I mean, who wants ash imposed on their forehead? At least it's at nighttime, right? So when you walk out of here tonight, no one will see smudges on your forehead unless you quickly rub them off. Who wants to be reminded by their ashes, these black ashes, of our utter mortality? Remember your dust, and to dust you shall return. Such a positive words of affirmation, isn't it? So what kind of people come to Ash Wednesday service? You see, they're generally people of the church who are committed to the church. They're the one who, when you ask them to pray, they are willing to or try to pray. When you ask them to fast, they will likely ask how and then begin to attempt to fast. And when it comes to giving, these people who gives and give willingly and also generously. They are disciples not in words alone, but exemplar of real and religious disciplines. They pray and do not flaunt their piety. They give and do not make announcements. They fast and don't need a crowd of audience. So what does this passage have to say to you? Yes, you, who are here this night, starting Ash Wednesday and this season of Lent. Jesus, even for the die-hard disciples, always had words for all of us. So let's dig deeper and listen to them carefully. If you haven't noticed, Jesus is so brilliant in the way he preaches. Today's passage in Matthew 6 is the center of the Jesus Sermon on the Mount. Chapter 5, 6, and 7. So chapter 6 is the main core. So for the few past Sundays, you know I've been preaching on the Sermon on the Mount. And we went back to Matthew 5 to go over the Beatitude again, one at a time. So it gives us very practical lessons we can walk with us and learn from it. Jesus is giving a new interpretation of law and practice of law to his audience and also to us. If you can project the second slide, Mike. After being refreshed by an angel from the grueling rounds, 3 rounds to be exact, of temptations, Jesus kicks off his ministry, seeing all the people wanting to know, having the hunger of heart of new community. Jesus preached the new community in verse 2 to 12. If you have slide number 2, it would be great. If not, it's okay. Then he declares the mission to the new community in verse 13 to 16. That he emphasized God's righteousness and surpassed even the laws of love in verse 21 to 48. Now here Jesus is stressing the essence of genuine faith in the entire chapter 6 from verse 1 through 34. So take a moment in this night and tomorrow to look over chapter 6 again. Here is how the faith of Jesus wants us to have that will exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the teachers. And to be perfect, will seek to be perfect as God is perfect. Jesus is making the distinction between appearance of faith and reality of faith. What better way to illustrate than tell us a parody? Parody, you say. As you remember, when we study the book of Revelations, there are copies and parodies of what's true, the true number of God versus the number of beasts. Parody is a bad copy. It's not just a copy, but a terrible imitation of what's true. So today, again, illustrate for us the stark difference between appearance of faith and the reality of faith. What looks like a faithful things and what is truly faithful in God's eyes. When I was in seminary, just a couple of guys and I there's a couple of guys who were getting married at the time. This group of us were very good friends. As you know, in the Asian and also Korean traditions, while the guys give their true love at big diamond rings on the gal's finger, the gals give her true love, hopefully, a watch. Right? Am I correct? Remember, this is before the Chinese manufacturers, of mass market manufacturers of the entire whole fake knockoff market on everything. There's a town in China, as a matter of fact, everything in that town, huge town, is all knockoffs. You can buy everything in 10% or less of the real value. So one of the guys decided one of the guys was getting married, received a Rolex watch from his parents-in-law to be. It was a genuine Rolex with papers and the famous Swiss watchmakers, certificates, everything. It comes in a nice big box, has the seals and the paper. If those of you know what I'm talking about, you know. Somehow, one of the other buddy, by the way, all their names should be nameless, because if they ever should show up at church to visit me or to be a preacher one day, you might lead the story to them. We don't want that to happen. So one of the guys supposedly saw the same watch, because all of us like marveling at, wow, Rolex, real Rolex. So one of the guys found an almost exact copy of this Rolex watch of all places in Fort Lee. If you know that area, Fort Lee is the opposite side of George Washington Bridge on the New Jersey side. There's a huge Korean town, a big Korean population there. Somehow he found a Rolex watch that looks very similar to this one this guy has, and bought it for $20. So for my $5,000 or $10,000 Rolex watch, compared to the $20 knockoff from the street in K-Town. Somehow he got in a room one night, switched the watch, and kept the real one. For fun. And for weeks, this poor block had no idea that his real, genuine, Swiss-made Rolex watch has been stolen and switched out for a fake knockoff. He wore it so proudly in front of everybody, and we all just kind of giggle in the background, knowing that he was wearing a complete fake. And then a couple of weeks later, the knockoff turned out to be the true knockoff. It broke. It stopped working. And he just panicked. There are two things about a knockoff that you can tell distinctly from the real thing. The knockoff watch, the weight of it is so light. If you hold it, you can significantly feel the weight of that Rolex watch versus this plastic-made cheap watch. I mean, you look at it and say, it's not, is this even a watch? Does it really work? Second thing, the famous Swiss-made watch, Rolex, has a brand of the continuous movement of the second hand, while there's no knockoff, as good as they are, can possibly duplicate that. I heard the Chinese market has done that, but I don't know. So the poor guy wore it for a couple of weeks. It broke. He was heartbroken. Before he told his wife-to-be, we couldn't have the heart, so we switch it up. We say, look, we'll give it back to you. This is the real one. And he was so mad with us. But for 2 weeks, he had no idea. He wore it as if that's the precious watch that's made from Switzerland. Jesus comes to us today with a comedy of play. I know this is a serious matter, but I thought if we look at it carefully, there is some humor to this. Humor in the sense that it's comedy of errors, or errors of comedy. Jesus is cracking jokes with us by telling us a parody. 3 parodies, as a matter of fact. So here we go. So here comes an almsgiver in the court of God. Imagine back in the time of Jesus in the synagogue. But this person shows up accompanied by the brass sections of Jerusalem Symphonic Orchestra. He gives a few dollars to this cause, and the trumpet comes alive like the University of Michigan trumpet section when the University of Michigan scored a touchdown. You know what that means. Then the generous giver walks over to another cause, give a few more dollars. Oh my goodness. The trombone section blares a salute that you will leap out of your seat. So to every cause the giver gives, the symphony comes alive to announce to everyone in the court, this person is being very generous. So everyone must cheers and claps and say, oh my, you're such a generous person. And to that, what does Jesus say to them? Jesus says, truly I tell you, they have received their reward. Now the next scene. There are a couple people praying standing over the corner. You know they're praying because everyone in the room knows they're praying. In fact, people a block or two away knows they're praying. Because they pray so loud and so long. They go on and on, stretch out every crumbs of emotions and all those shreds of humility. They just pray. They would use elaborate words and complex sentences. They even drags out the last syllable of the word to emphasize the points they're making. They shout so loud that they climax to the poetry of God, and everyone can hear it. They even pound their chest, raise their arms, and dance if they need to emphasize the Spirit is in them. People listen to them and say, oh my goodness, they surely can pray very well. And to that, what does Jesus say? Jesus says, truly I tell you, they have received their reward. Now, on this side of the temple court, there are people fasting. You know they're fasting by their gaunt faces and eyes crazed from a lack of food and sugar and bread. And they loose up their hairs and torn their garments because you have to do something, anything, to show people you're fasting. You see, the problem of fasting is this. No one knows you're fasting. How will they know you're fasting? You're not eating, so how will they know you're fasting? So you have to do something, anything, to show that you are truly fasting. They come towards the temple court, stumbling a bit, slump a little bit, looks a little weak, seeking the blessings of the priest, and put ashes on their forehead as a sign of penitence. Why just the forehead? Why not the whole head? Well, if you're at it, why don't you put the whole ash bowl on your whole entire body, so you'll cover with ashes. So people know you're being penitent, and you're fasting. And onlooker will declare, oh, certainly they are so religious. Look at how they're fast and how they look like they're truly faithful. Again, to that, what does Jesus say? Jesus says, truly I tell you, they have received their reward. I guess the slide's not coming up. It's okay. There are parodies. There are, oh, there they are. I don't see it. Okay. Sorry. So there are charades or charities. The comparison to that. The penitence will prayer. Pretense, excuse me. And flaunting will fasting, and finally fool's gold will lasting treasure. Jesus is he's such a brilliant preacher. He's contrasting, obviously, a fake knockoff against what is true and what is lasting and what is faithful in God's eyes. The contrast is so big, you cannot miss because knockoff is so cheap and fake. So in telling this comedy errors or error comedy, Jesus is hoping that in our laughter of this terrible parody, perhaps, just perhaps, we can laugh about our own religious practices. We need to laugh at ourselves because we are often fragile, tragic, and needy. And we have difficulty facing our own mortality. Our life on this earth is so short. Look at the eternity of God. We are no more than a small molecule next to the vastness of the entire universe and cosmos. Yet we know in our little time we have, it will take our entire lifetime to form, to shape our faith in God. Longing for God isn't just a momentary excitement, but a lifetime endeavor for all of us. Such endeavor will take time and effort. Frankly, there will be time that we settle into being satisfied just having the appearance of faith and not genuine faith, because there's so much work involved. Ash Wednesday and the whole Lenten season is that very time of refreshing for our soul. Luke speaks about this time of refreshing in chapter 3 of Acts, verse 19 and 21. In the way he described the time of refreshing is when Christ appears and comes back, the entire world will be wiped clean once more, as if there's been smudges of gold. And living in Michigan, Our car all have one colors. Doesn't matter if you buy red or green or black or white, it will all be gray in the middle of winter. My clothes is covered with salt. I couldn't believe there's a kind of shape of my side of my bun on the car this morning because I'm like, oh, I must have leaned against the car because that part is clean. The rest of the car is completely white. The time of refreshing is Christ enter into the world and wipe away all the smudges. Wipe away all the sins. Wipe away all the brokenness. Wipe away all the tears and wipe away all the fakes and knockoff and parodies. The time of refreshing comes as a way for believers to be refreshed and reborn again. King David knew this very well in his heart. And you know this Psalms very well. He had committed a murder against an innocent man by putting him in the front line. Not once, not twice, but third time killed him. And then he committed adultery with his wife. To hide that, he killed him. And you know that in that sin he committed, both sins, according to the Levitical law, is punishable by death alone. But King David knew that his position would exclude him from such punishment, but not from the arms of God. So Psalm 51 is a psalm that he wrote recognizing his sin before God as a murderer, as adulterer, as a liar, and not to mention all kind of lists of things he had done. And NIV, I'm going to read the both versions for you for verse 10 and 12. If you have your Bible, flip there. Psalm 51, verse 10 and 12. And you know this song very well. NIV rendered this, create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me from your presence or take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore unto me the joy of your salvation and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me. And honestly rendered this way. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and put a new and right spirit within me. Do not cast me away from your presence, and do not take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation, and sustain in me a willing spirit. In that penitential prayer, we come to see the heart of this king, this man, this sinner, and how God restored him to the path once more. We all know the story. Even in God's forgiveness, David's life would be full of more brokenness. His firstborn will turn against him, Absalom, and then he will run into the same caves and mountains that he hid once from King Saul when he was a young man, and now as an old man, near his time of death. It's quite sad the way King David's life ended. But Jesus concluded here in the passage in Matthew is not just it ends in that sinfulness, but God's restoration comes to our lives and restores once more when our heart is found what we treasure the most. So what do you treasure the most in this season of Lent? What do you hold dear in value, in people, in community, in gifts, in material things? But what we hold dear is that God called us to hold dear to God's righteousness, hold dear to God's faithfulness, and hold dear to God's perfections as our guide, as our treasure in our heart. And when we aim to that direction, our hearts will be found not in proximity, but in the presence of God. Even as a sinner, in our penitence, God brings us back, receive us once more. So let us move our hearts to the heart of God. Now, no one wants to be a knockoff. No one wants to be a fake. While poor imitation can bring laughter to us, the reality is that it is not real. We even laugh at ourselves. Oh yeah, I did that. But in laughing or grieving our brokenness from God, we may come to see the parodies in our own lives. The knockoff moments where we're not true. The pretensions that we hold. We don't need to be almsgiver sounding their horns. We don't need to be person praying with words and sounds for people to recognize. We don't need to fast when there's ashes, misery that we exhibit on our face. But But to that, Jesus called us to the true reward, which is in a lasting relationship with God. For our reward, our treasure is not in the pitiful acceptance of others. It's not in inflated ego or self-importance. It's not in vanity of sins, but in the truthfulness of our relationship with God. The ashes on our forehead this night remind us the reality of faith that we seek in God. In life and in death, you do belong to God. God holds your birth and God holds your end all together in God's hands. So where's your heart this night? What would you be seeking? What would you be longing? And how in this season of penitence and season of refreshing at the end, that we can see for God's springs of hope to come into our lives. Even in our stumbling, even in our lack of words, even in our uncertainty, the right Spirit can come to bring us closer to God. May we walk to that path. May we seek to live that way. And may we grab hold of truth for the next 40 days and 40 nights in this season of Lent. To dust that we were born from, and to dust we shall go. Yet in this life, and the life